Namaste, beautiful people. I hope you are well. I wanted to share a little transmission with you and share some of the insights that I have come into realization over the last 10 days, 11 days since I had my 2 wisdom teeth extracted on the left side. Now I had the right ones done up and down last year, and on the 27th I had these ones done. It was one of the most intense things that I have experienced in this lifetime, and it really wasn't easy, and it's still not easy. I'm still coming out of it. The first extraction on this side was very, very intense. The bottom 2 molars are at a 45-degree angle, and this tooth didn't want to come out for 40 minutes. The dentist tried, and there was just a lot of injury to the jaw and to the gums. And on this side, the dentist used another technique. So this time splitting the tooth into many pieces to take out. That in itself also still took a good 40 minutes. And the bits of teeth were also still stubborn to come out. And I'm sharing all of this with you because at this point of sitting in the dentist chair, I had to go really inwards and go into a really deep internal process. And it gave me really unique, interesting insight into my own system. Of course, we can only have this unique view of how our system works. And it's great because, that helps us to relate to others, especially, particularly those of us doing this therapeutic healing work, and shows us the opportunities, shows us the capacities of the bodies, the limitations of the bodies, really gives us this beautiful, unique insight. But what I'm not saying is what happened to me is going to be exactly the same for all of you, and certainly in terms of what's going on beneath the surface, because as I mentioned, this is a unique experience. Nevertheless, very, very interesting. So as I sat in that dentist chair, I became very aware, and I zoned into the teeth. I became very aware that they were not ready to come out. And not only were they not ready to come out, but they were really, really afraid to come out. So the teeth itself I was connecting into, but what I'm connecting into are the parts of my internal world, the energies that make up my mind, because there are lots of different energies that make up the mind. The mind isn't just one energy, it's multiple. And so I was tuning into parts of me, essentially, that were not ready to give up the tooth. The tooth was not ready to go. And I realized really quickly that that's what had happened with the other tooth, and that's why it took the dentist an hour to take that tooth out. Not because it was just at an angle, of course, that made it tricky, but that's all manifested in that way. I have manifested this situation to show me something, and that's always my guiding star. I'm always looking at situations, occurrences, and saying, right, what is there for me to learn from this? What is this showing me? What have I created here? So I created the situation for a painful removal and extraction. But the first time I didn't really go down, and really listen and hear what those parts of me had to say, why it was so difficult to let go of that tooth. And I got it when I was sat in that dentist chair, and I realized very quickly that I had to do quite a bit of work then and there in order for that tooth to come out. And I had done that on the right side when it was really difficult for the tooth to come out. I'd really gone down inwards, really connected in, and was energetically almost coaxing the tooth out. But this time when I saw that it was afraid, that there was fear in the system for that tooth to come out and why it was there, it really enabled me to go inwards and do some inner work. So first of all, the fear is there because I have had numerous procedures to remove my large intestine another part of my small intestine, a lump from my breast, these 2 wisdom teeth, and things have been unceremoniously just removed from the body. And this fear is because of that, because this just one day, almost as the body wakes up, goes somewhere, and someone just takes these really important organs out of the body, parts of us out of the body. And that in itself is traumatizing for the system. Now, my teacher always says that, you know, we perceive trauma. And because we perceive trauma, because that's how we're neurally wired, that is the experience that we have. And when we clear the perception of trauma, when we no longer see something as happening to us as being traumatic, then we stop taking that on as a trauma. Now that's it. I totally 100% believe in that. And I've done a lot of work to reframe, you know, how I see things. And I have seen how it prevented myself from taking something on as a trauma, as a burden of a trauma. And I'm like, okay, brilliant, it works. But the thing that we don't recognize is that actually, on the surface, it might seem that, yeah, I've changed this perspective. But there are parts of us deep down, really buried away, that haven't changed their perspective on trauma, that still hold the belief that something that's bad, that happens to us, that feels unsafe as bad, is traumatic, and that there is stuff there that we're going to take on, and there's going to be shock there, and there's going to be all sorts of energies that are now going to be created that's going to sit in the system. So what this showed me was that these parts that are actually really hidden in my system, these parts of me, hold a lot of fear and still believe that these happenings can cause this trauma. And so here we are, 10 days later, I'm still on painkillers every 6 hours, which is an improvement from 4 hours. I'm having to load myself up with oils, with cannabis oil. I'm meditating, I'm doing chanting of mantras that, you know, are known to shift us energetically. I'm working with tuning fork. I'm doing so much in order to I'm doing a lot of work to kind of mitigate all of that. But fundamentally, that's what I found. I was like, whoa, there is such fear in my system. For the time when those organs and those body parts were removed unceremoniously, and that was it, they were just gone. And from the perspective of the body, that's pretty scary. And there are parts of me that are still holding that perception of trauma and are going to take on burdens as a result of that. And so this insight was so, so invaluable. And also having to do the work there on the dentist chair to really be like, right, okay, what needs to happen right now? What parts need to be soothed? What parts need to be acknowledged? What parts of me need to be unburdened right now in this process? Because there's a lot being happening and a lot being taken on. Sometimes it's really useful to unburden and shift energy out the way so that we can kind of do more work. And then the biggest thing for me is the presence, the level of presence in the last 10 days that I have shown myself is unbelievable. And, you know, even when I've got to just put something on the TV, on Netflix, to just kind of like sink into the sofa, I'm still really present with myself. I'm really present with my body. I'm really present with the sensations that are coming up. I'm really present with the parts that are coming up. Because to work on pain at that level, to work on like shifting the emotional body at this time, because there's so much up for me, it requires this next level presence. And sometimes there's a part of me that comes in that goes, oh, you're not doing enough. You've got all these tools. You should be like practicing for 4 hours a day, and you should be going into nature every day, and you should be making this concoction of things. And Do you know what? I'm keeping it quite simple, which actually to somebody looking in is still going to seem really quite complex. Yet there's still this part of me, so I'm keeping it simple and I'm focusing on what I know is working for me and what I need. But there's still this part of me that's like, you're not doing enough. You must be doing something wrong because it's still in process. So just so much is coming in for me to see and observe and go, right, okay, this is why this situation has happened. Because when you're on this path of self-mastery, if you've made that commitment to your personal growth and evolution, Spirit is going to bring you opportunities in the way that you need those opportunities to arise. So I needed to go through this crazy mental experience to really fully face up to the fear that I have going on inside me. And the last thing that I want to leave with is, this is part of the ever growing journey into trusting and trusting and trusting. And you know, this isn't a finite thing. Like, I guarantee that even if you feel right now in this moment, I trust in myself, I trust in the universe, I'm one of those people, I just really trust really well, I guarantee that in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years down the line, you'll reflect and be like, no, there are layers to this. I trust even more now than I ever have, because there are so many layers in this. Our awareness shifts. It's infinite, you know, in a moment, and we get it a little bit more, and the system trusts self energy that little bit more. Because what is it that we're trusting? Soul is what it is. Soul just is. Soul doesn't need to be labeled. It's the parts of us that are on their journey of stabilizing into trust more and more and more and more. So the more the parts of us see us abundant and healing and happy and healthy and able to navigate our world, the more trust between the parts of us and self is created. And that feeds into the whole thing, and that helps us to just be liberated, you know, to another degree. And that experience of life, again, is to another degree. And when we do all of this, and we trust, and we trust, and we trust, we're trusting in unconditional love, essentially. We're trusting in the unconditional